Hey guys, I just wanted to interrupt this podcast just to let you know that it does contain some spoilers. So if you have a dream of not having your movie spoiled, then chase it, but then lose that dream. Just sabotage all sorts of happiness in pursuit of that dream, climb up to the peaks of that mountain, and when you get to the top, land at the bottom and realize you're never going to achieve that dream, and at that point, check your emails. So if you don't want this movie spoiled, go watch the movie, then come back and listen to this podcast. Stay unspoiled, boys. Bye.
Pop culture pastor.
Yeah, and basically what I would like to say is that my guidance counselor really jobbed me. Because if I'd have known that there was a position available of Camartage drummer, how did I get jobbed on that? Like, those dudes clearly aren't sorcerers. They're just there for when, like, the Sorcerer Supreme says, Camartage needs to become a fortress. Then they start drumming. Doom, 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 doom. Like, I was like, who are those dudes? They're just waiting there to drum.
It's kind of like Mad Max with the bass player that's like on the war machine, and he's just rocking out. And I'm like, that's a position?
I'm like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I need answers. I have questions. One, how does that help? Is that magic? Are they performing magic with the drums? Is the drumming doing something to the walls of Camartage? Because it didn't help. Oh man, did it not help? My goodness. Or are they just there for HR said, people are 65% of employees are happier when there's music to work to. Is that a thing?
Yeah, the officially the moral support team.
The moral support drummers.
Moral support drummers.
Of Camartage. Yeah. I need all my questions answered about those dudes. That was so random. Like, did none of you guys think that?
Maybe they're the students who haven't quite got the whole portal thing yet.
They're the F students.
Yeah. I was like, well, I skipped a portal class and they made me be a drummer.
So as someone that is currently watching Vikings, they all have drummers. It's an old time war thing. So and you have the ancientness of the Sorcerer Supreme, like title and all that jazz. So it made sense.
It was Camartage being reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I'm greatly looking forward to the Disney Plus series Seth, the Camartage drummer.
Hey, I have never seen a role in a movie that I felt more driven towards.
Yeah, we actually have a drummer.
We do.
He's got to speak up a little bit because he was like,
I'm
really
get louder.
Quiet.
Yeah, get louder. No, and anytime you need to get crunk in the gym, you got to have your music flowing. So maybe it's time to battle.
Do you think it was just there, but like, hey, Van Halen this up? Just someone hit the drums. They had like 3 or 4 of them. And Wong says, we got to turn Camartage into fortress. They just went to beating. Doom, 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 doom. And I was like, whoa. Someone pause the movie. What is this? Like, you're just going to sneak that in there, Sam Raimi? And like, we're just not going to explain that? I needed explanation. Anyways. Obviously, this is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast, and we saw Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. That would be weird if we didn't. And I was just talking about that one little scene that most people probably just went right past and didn't have any thoughts on. I had thoughts on that scene. My name is Dave. I'm here. Cody, the co-host of Pop Culture Pastor.
I am here.
Way too far from the microphone. Cody's here. We are your hosts of Pop Culture Pastor. And then, as we do with every special movie review pod, this is an official meeting of the Geeks of the Round Table. Official Geeks present are Scott Patrick Dillon.
What's up?
Scott's here. Kane Colton.
Hello.
Kane's here, also known as Korg 2.
Oh, hello, Dave.
Yes. And Justin John, who was on last week's pod.
Yes. Back again.
We have this may be the largest convening of the Geeks of the Round Table. And we saw Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. And so we're here to just talk about it. We usually start off with just like a broad take on the movie. So, broad take. I'm gonna give us like the 2-minute summary here. 2-minute summary. We don't want to get into deep into anything. What up? Scott's taking my picture to post on Facebook, I'm assuming, or some social media. Okay, but here's the deal. Here's the movie. Essentially, we start the movie running. This movie has breakneck pace, by the way. The pacing of this movie is sleek and fast. And we start off right from the beginning where we're introduced to America Chavez. Well, we're not introduced to her, but she's on screen first, running away from a demon, a monster of some sort, and with a strange-looking Doctor Strange helping her out. And they're running away. It doesn't end well. The Doctor Strange, that version of Doctor Strange, as we quickly pick up that this is an alternative reality, tries to murder her, to take her power, and she escapes. She's clearly someone who can jump between realities. We find that out quickly, and the movie's off. Through the course of this movie, we find out quickly that the one behind all this is Wanda Maximoff, also AKA the Scarlet Witch. She is the full-on bad guy of this movie. She is full-on murdery, as we'll get to, I'm sure. And the crux of the movie involves that she wants America Chavez as this being who were never really explained why she is who she is. We're just told that there's only one of her. She has no alternate realities of herself because, of course, as mentioned early on in the movie, dreams are windows to our alternate selves, right? Everyone picked that up because that was kind of neat. And so we move on into this territory of just this conceit of this movie is them traversing multiverses through different realities, trying to get away from Wanda, who chases them down. Hijinks ensue, and lots of death. And eventually, the good guys win because the good guys always win. And we'll get to the specifics of all that soon, but we just wanted to kind of put the broad summary on the table. I will just go over some of my broad notes here, and I will allow you all a turn. Strange is the focus of this movie. All the other characters are pretty thin, which was surprising because I thought going into this movie, we were going to get a largely Marvel movie. And what I mean by that is like Captain America Civil War was not really a Captain America movie. So that was a Marvel movie in tone and in particular. And I just thought that this was going to be a similar type movie. I thought it would be highly connected to the rest of the MCU. But I was wrong. This is a movie about Doctor Strange. He is the character that gets fleshed out the most. And all the other characters in this movie, pretty thin. There's not a lot of character development done on anyone else. And I suppose that could be a good thing for some people. I'm not so sure about it. I do think this is going to be a movie that heavily divides people. And it kind of seems that way when you go online. There's some people that really like this movie. There's some people that didn't like this movie. I'm hearing talk of people putting it like in their bottom however many Marvel movies, which I'm not going to go that far. I thought it was a good movie. But we'll get to my grade later and talk about that. Second thing I would like to point out is Doctor Strange is a tool. He is an absolute tool in this movie. He's a terrible hero. He's not good. This movie proves it. He is a terrible, terrible hero. And then we find out he's the best version of himself because all the other universes have worse versions of him. And so our version of Doctor Strange is the best we can do. And even him, by the end of the movie, you understand he's corrupted by the Darkhold. Great. Wonderful. He's a tool. Wanda is just straight up villain in this movie. And of course, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this to ad nauseum. I had a real problem with this, you guys. Had a real problem with this. This does not, okay, first of all, this does not jive with the end of WandaVision at all. And actually, Sam Raimi came out in an interview. here in the last couple days, said he hasn't even seen WandaVision. The director of this movie was shown a couple key scenes, but said he did not watch WandaVision at large, and I think it shows in the movie. But again, I think their intention was to make this a standalone movie, and we can get back to that later because I have a lot to say about that.
I feel like that's a strange reality. Like, in watching the movie, I thought that was maybe the one thing that a review would have done well for.
Yeah. I don't know. We can talk about this at length later on. I want to get through your guys' thoughts before we break off into these discussions that I want to have. And the big question of the movie, it seems to be asking about Wanda, and specifically is, does pain and loss excuse taking something back if it hurts others? That seems to be the crux of the movie, and Wanda is like dealing with like kind of this eternal question, like do I get to do me and not care about who I hurt to do it if I've been hurt, right? That's the justification like that she's going through, where, well, for most of the movie, obviously doesn't get there. We should say that, by the way, spoilers. We're talking heavily about spoilers here on this podcast. I should have given you a heads up about that. But Cody, broad thoughts about the movie.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with you about Wanda.
Oh, great. Already. Good.
Yeah, I'll get that out of the way. I'm going to say Elizabeth Olsen steals the scene she's in. Her facial acting is phenomenal. Her character, I think, is us. I'm going to go broad theme. She represents most of the general public. Doctor Strange is who we can identify as someone that we hate in his ways. And we'll go into deeper thoughts about that, and I'll explain it later. But and then America Chavez, I could honestly have done without her. She just kind of was the I'll help move the story along.
Well, if there's someone even more thin in character than Scarlet Witch or Wanda, it's America Chavez. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Like, yeah. So if she doesn't appear in another movie, I'm not going to question it. Like, that's how little like connectivity I had with America Chavez.
Yeah.
And so, but overall, there's some good themes within the movie that I think, if you think about the movie on a deeper level, it might reveal something about yourself.
Let the record show that we got 11 minutes in before Cody brought the podcast to a screeching halt and I wanted to fight him. So let's just pause the podcast and I'm going to fight him now. No. That was not, because the character was written thin doesn't mean that Elizabeth Olsen didn't have some scenery to chew. She does a great job. She's wonderful. In fact, I think it's only because of her that the character is super interesting, right? Because of her acting. Because as written, the character, like, she goes from zero to Stalin in like 5 seconds. Like, what happened? That's all off camera. At the end of WandaVision, she is full on board the redemption train and understanding what she's done wrong.
I don't think she was. I think she was. She
that
was
the end of WandaVision.
She was over Vision's death. She wasn't over the full juxtaposition of losing everything. And so she goes off on her own, and she has the book
in the post-credit scene.
In the post-credit
scene, she's messing with the Darkhold, and we're to understand that it corrupts.
Yes.
So I'm trying to allow for that, but we don't see it. That's my problem. My problem is a character that is beloved to us. Wanda is a beloved character in the MCU, and you let all of that happen off screen. She
easily became the MCU's best villain to date with this movie.
I disagree. I think she could have.
I think she is.
But they don't spend any time showing us any sort of progression. She goes from zero to Stalin in 5 seconds. She goes from the Wanda we love to murdery really quick, Cody.
Well, when you have magical abilities, again, I'll explain when we get deeper into it.
Hey, I will never say you're wrong, except for this time, Scott. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was wondering, is it ever going to ever pass on? And do I get to talk at all?
Broad thoughts about the movie, Scott.
I think this is Disney's latest attempt to shoehorn the basic plot of The Mandalorian into all of their stuff, where you have this reluctant hero take on this fatherly role of a character we've never met before, who's quite young and needs protection, clearly, because they are quite powerful being. And
Yeah, but that's the strangest thing. They even do that with him in Spider-Man No Way Home. He's like the...
I mean, I watched Doctor Strange, the first one. And that's not his. That's not his arc in that first one.
No, not in the first.
I watched
Doctor
that
Strange
to kind of come like into this one. Hopefully, with the. I'm sad that they totally forget about all the pop culture references that he makes in the first film. Like that's a very large character trait that he has, and it just is not existent in this one. And I miss that.
Well, they don't have cable at Comertage.
Apparently not.
We don't know how long he trained there, or maybe in the Sanctum. Do they not have Netflix in the Sanctum?
Well,
and he was gone for 5 years.
They do have internet.
Yeah.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah,
what
'cause he
what
got the
kind of
Wi-Fi-
pop culture were we rolling with during the 5 years of the blip? Did everything just stop? Did we go post-apocalyptic, or did they continue to make movies? Did Tom Hanks get blipped? Tell me Tom Hanks didn't get blipped.
I don't know. I enjoyed the movie. I did not think it was.
Okay, no
Definitely-
grades yet. No
okay.
grades.
I wasn't. I was just a broad thought. It fell underneath my expectations.
Okay.
That's all I was.
I think
gonna
that's
say.
fair. I think that's fair. Kane, Korg, Colton. What were your thoughts?
It was alright, but
Do New Zealanders say "I"?
not really.
Okay, you're just being extra cool.
I was just trying to be,
Yeah.
I was just trying to be cool and failing miserably. It was okay. I'm probably sharing Scott's feelings that it kind of fell a little bit short of what I was hoping for. I kind of feel I'm not too happy that they went with a little bit more of away from the typical Marvel feel, and they went into the more kind of horror genre. Mm-hmm. I was really looking forward to taking both of my older daughters to this movie, and I only ended up taking my oldest daughter because when it came out, we kind of found out a little bit more about it, and I realized that my second oldest she'd actually get really freaked out by some of the stuff that was in there, and I didn't take her, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, this movie had some scarier moments for sure. Justin John, our resident Comertage drummer,
That's right.
the fellow drummer of the round table. Broad
filled that
thoughts.
role.
Broad
Could have
thoughts.
filled that role.
I will dedicate my life to becoming a Comertage drummer.
I'm for it. I really enjoyed the breakneck speed of it. It felt a little bit like a race.
Yeah.
Like there was one goal, and it's like nobody ever sat down to think anything out. I mean, like it was just flying. Like the quickest person to get to a certain end was going to win. I liked the breakneck speed of it. It just, you immersed yourself immediately, and you were just grasping at what was going to happen next.
I'll tell you, I really thought we were going to get a trippy, all over the place, multi-reality movie. And that's not what we got. We got this compact, high-speed action movie that never really takes a breath.
Yeah, no.
I was surprised by that.
You never come up for air. I mean, you
But
just keep going.
It was very adept at what it did.
Yeah.
It was good. It's a good movie
Yeah.
by itself.
I'm with Kane. I actually thought it was pretty dark for MCU. Like it was heavy. Like there were moments where you wondered, oh my gosh, like am I ready for this? Like it's getting it's getting dark. I mean, especially with Wanda, and the spells and different things and everything. It was getting really dark really fast. All that said, I laughed often. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I laughed at all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah, Doctor Strange comes with the funny more than you'd think. I never thought of Benedict Cumberbatch as a comedic guy. I mean, I liked him on Sherlock, but he's generally kind of a funny in in a very intellectual way on Sherlock, right? He's funny when he digs on someone or makes someone look dumb, not because he's, quipping one-liners, which he does as Strange a lot. And it's funnier than I thought it might be. Let's go to our favorite scenes. This is the next category we usually jump to, favorite scenes. I'll start the Illuminati. The Illuminati after the teasing of the trailers. Let me ask you a question. Who wants to answer this? Did the teasing in the trailers kind of ruin your enjoyment of the Illuminati? Scott?
With the character I cared the most about being present, yes. But there were other delightful additions to the Illuminati that we didn't get hinted at in the trailer that I was also just as well happy to see.
Yeah. I loved the Illuminati scene. Loved it. I would have liked it to have them kind of rested in that a little bit more interaction before Wanda shows up and just absolutely murders them. By the way, how's Professor X going out like a chump like that? Professor X is like one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe as far as the power he's coming with. And Wanda just, does him dirty.
No, she's not going to come in here dream walking and kill us all. That won't happen. And then it happens. That's like exactly what they said wasn't going to happen.
I'm trying to balance my love of the scene because Krasinski, oh my gosh, we got John Krasinski as Reed Richards. And by the way, he's perfect. Perfect. If he's not Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie, we revolt. We rushed the Marvel Studios.
He looked so good.
Oh, he sounded perfect. Everything was 100 with him. Like that was an incredible choice for Reed Richards. Everybody wanted it, and everybody was proven right that he is the guy to be Reed Richards. And he was wonderful in he gets a little speaking to do, and he's just absolutely embodies who we all think of as Reed Richards. But they're the Illuminati. Like, I'm okay with Wanda winning because Wanda is so powerful and we understand that. But did it have to be so easy? Like,
Maybe this is the worst version of the Illuminati.
Man, I think we got to go out on that limb and say, yeah, it might be. It might be the worst version. What's Mordo doing? I love that Mordo hates Doctor Strange so much. He's just like, yeah, they'll handle that. I'm going to kick your butt. It's like, I'm going to watch you because I know you, right? That all was very clever, by the way. The Doctor Strange puts together hey, Baron Mordo hates me just as much in this reality as he did in mine. And so they end up fighting by themselves. So she runs roughshod through the Illuminati, which is supposed to be like this collection of the most intelligent, most powerful Marvel characters in their universe. And she just kind of runs through them. The only one that seems to give her any sort of trouble is Captain Marvel. But Monica Rambeau, or not Monica, the mom. What's the mom's name? It's not Monica.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember her first name. Anyways, Carol Danvers' friend, who is the Captain Marvel apparently in this universe, she fights back and gives you get this cosmic power versus chaos magic moment in the movie where it seems like it could go either way.
Maria
Rambeau, that's right. And it's fun. A lot of body horror, which is just Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi gets to be wonderfully Sam Raimi in this movie. As soon as we see Reed Richards and we realize they're all dying, I'm like, okay, Reed Richards has to die in a particular way. And they made it happen. Because Reed Richards, in whatever what if or alternate reality comic book you were reading when you were a kid, there's only one way Reed Richards dies, and that's like being stretched out beyond recognition. And so monster body horror style. And there's a lot of body horror going on in this movie. And especially in the death scenes we get with Black Bolt. Oh, you guys. First of all, we get a flashback of Black Bolt killing that universe's Doctor Strange, which is cool because the Black Bolt TV show was apparently terrible. It was a joke. But then they get the same actor to come back and kind of, he gets like a redemptive arc of his own to where we see Black Bolt being awesome Black Bolt like in the comics. And he like basically obliterates their Doctor Strange with a whisper. But in this one, the Scarlet Witch chaos magics his mouth away, and then he panics. Like you're supposed to, you see his face, which he does a great job of acting, and he panics and like screams apparently in his head, but with no output for his powerful voice. He like melts his brain, and we see his head cave in, and that's awesome.
As one does.
The body horror in this movie was so deliciously Sam Raimi, and I was here for it. That was pretty cool. And we get a lot of body horror. Pretty much all of the Illuminati die in something that involves some kind of body horror, except for maybe Rambeau, who just gets crushed by rocks. But Captain Carter gets cut in half by her own shield, although we don't get to see it. I'm a little upset with that.
Yeah, it's all implied.
Yeah, it's implied. Must have been too bloody for the old PG-13.
Well, you see the bloody shield
Yeah.
hit the wall.
And it's like dripping.
Yeah.
And then Professor X, this is the only one, that's the only one that kind of bothered me. I'm just like, what? Professor X got dogged like that? Come on. He's supposed to be the most powerful telepath in the world. And he gets like just taken and gets his neck broken. Yeah. So the Illuminati scene for me was amazing. Krasinski, Black Bolt was wonderful. I'm not so sure about Captain Carter, but okay. People dig that what if callback. It was a what if callback.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites, seeing Captain Carter.
That was your favorite?
Actually, live action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because of the what ifs, that probably was my favorite with the Captain Carter right at the very beginning. It was kind of cool.
It's not the same
No.
realities version, but it is just a version. Yeah.
Yeah. Was the shield different? Because I was sure that in the what if the her whole shield was the Union Jack.
Yeah, it might have been.
Whereas in this one, just the center circle was the Union Jack, and it still had the. So it was almost like Captain America Carter.
Yeah, they probably wanted to make her slightly different,
Yeah.
just to make sure you knew that. Yeah, this is not the same variant that's in the What If show.
I was going to say, sorry, coming into it, I thought the Illuminati would be like all those characters were from different multiversal universes, and they formed the Illuminati together. Like that's like where I thought they were going to go, and they just happened to be like their universe's Avengers.
Yeah.
Rebrand, boom, Illuminati, slap that sticker on there.
Yeah.
We got the Illuminati MCU.
Yeah. And the weird thing about that scene, the choices of who is on this thing is you've got Ultron bots, which would heavily indicate that there's an Iron Man, and there's no Iron Man. We're not sure if he's died. I guess we're left to assume that he's died, but then how is all that tech still working without him?
I mean, in theory, that universe has fought Thanos, so maybe he died fighting Thanos.
Yeah, maybe.
And
although it's clear, they make it clear that they beat Thanos because of the Book of Ashanti.
yeah, it's true.
That Strange helps find through usage of the Darkhold, which I'm not sure how that works either.
Well, you see Thanos in that scene.
Yeah, he makes a cameo,
And he's
impaled.
just impaled. Like, so it's like, well, I guess they could take him out like that.
Still wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, by the way.
Right. It's just chilling.
Yeah, so the Vishanti, the Book of Vishanti is clearly in the MCU. You're supposed to acknowledge it as this like ultimate weapon that can take out the Infinity Stones. Cody, did you have a favorite scene or two? Or
Okay,
three?
so if you exclude that one, I'll go with when Doctor Strange first goes and visits Wanda. That whole dialogue, and then she reveals the child's name being America, and you see his look, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't tell me her name, did you?" And then, like, she lays out her terms, and she's like, if you hand the child over, life will be good for you. But if you don't, you're going to meet the Scarlet Witch. And, I just thought that back and forth was so good. And with Doctor Strange, you're seeing his intelligence come out. And with Wanda, she's like, the spells, that was the easy part. It's the lying that was the more difficult, challenging aspect of it all.
Yeah, because it is a pretty bad slip up on her part. Because I think everyone in the theater was like, he didn't tell her name. He didn't say her name. Everyone caught it, right?
Yeah.
Except for Wanda, apparently.
But yeah, I loved that scene. And like next couple minutes worth of chaos ensues from it. So
yeah, I think that scene was really good too. And that is the scene where if you're going to say, hey, we can do this without giving Wanda a lot of character building to see how she got here, that's the scene that maybe can do it. Because as you said, Elizabeth Olsen's great in that scene, and it's subtle in the delivery. So she's not bombastically bad. She's not mustache twiddling. But as soon as she gives up the charade, she doesn't go like straight up, like she's not, maniacally laughing or anything. But she does immediately, her tone subtly changes. And that's where we get that line from the trailer of like, you break the rules and you get to be the hero. And I break the rules and I'm the villain. That doesn't seem fair. And the way she delivers that line in particular is pretty masterful, in my opinion. So that scene worked for me. I have questions about what the Darkhold is doing, because that looks like a hellscape. After her magic wears off, after she releases the magic and you see what it actually looks like in wherever they're at, that looks pretty scary. That doesn't even look like you're on Earth anymore.
Well, like when after the events of WandaVision take place, that town looks like horrific compared to what she had made it up to be in her mind. And so her magic comes at a cost.
Yeah, well, and so, in particular, the Darkhold.
Yeah,
I mean, you're supposed to assume that the Darkhold has corrupted the area, not just her.
Yeah, and when we get to how it corrupts her, that's when I give my big breakdown.
Okay, well, waiting with bated breath. Kane, did you have some favorite scenes or a scene?
I'm with you on the whole Illuminati thing. Yeah, that's got to be my favorite. The alternate characters, Reed Richards with John Krasinski, absolutely so cool.
How do you nail a part in what 15, 20 words of dialogue? Yeah. How did he do that?
Yeah.
He's that dude.
Yeah, only he can do that, right?
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, he was amazing. That was such a great scene. Yeah. So you like just alternate characters. Are we a little disappointed that there weren't some other cats in there? No, Submariner is supposed to be in Black Panther, so I know they can't use him. But are we a little disappointed that we don't have any Doctor Doom? That we don't have any, other guys of high intelligence that could have found their way onto an alternate Illuminati? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. We need more information about their fight against Thanos and how many heroes bought it in their reality.
Maybe they charactered out in budget wise or something. They couldn't afford any more characters.
I am curious. Okay, so this is a real thing, to discuss. There were tons of reshoots, and the rumors were that all sorts of cameos were filmed for this. I think clearly at some point they made a decision to make this a smaller movie. Because I think what we're left with is this, so we'll get into this later. I think what the reason it's so divided is that there were two kinds of camps coming into this movie. There's the people who just wanted, a Doctor Strange adventure. But then there was a lot of people, I think, who wanted this highly complex, tons of alternate realities, tons of different kinds of variants and cameos. Like some people wanted this large, futuristic tank. And what we got was a sleek small, compact sports car of a movie.
Where is my Tom Cruise's Iron Man cameo? Because that's what I was promised.
Listen, the people that the people that deal in rumors and things, that was almost a can't miss here about 6 months ago. I mean, everybody and their mother was telling us about how that was filmed. Like Tom Cruise definitely filmed some scenes as an alternate Iron Man. And like that didn't happen. But if you look at the Illuminati setup in this reality, it's clear that there's been an Iron Man there. They've got the Ultron bots. They've got like all this technology around them that is very stark in nature. It was weird. It was weird. It was like at some point they decided, you know what? Let's ease back on the cameos and let's make this a Doctor Strange movie, which they do, and it works well. And you know, when I give my grade at the end, I will say this again. Like, it's a good movie. It just might have been what some people weren't expecting.
It was shorter than I expected. I mean, we were kind of expecting a typical like 2.5 hour movie.
2.5 to 3 hours.
2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting.
And then we were looking at the movie times and we were like, oh, wow, it's only 2 hours. Okay. So maybe it's that additional half an hour to an hour that actually got cut, which were all the cameos and all the extra scenes that maybe fleshed out things more. Yeah.
But the Illuminati scene, like, it feels weird because I feel not quite fulfilled, but also super thankful to have seen that scene. Like, that was great because you have to put it in the proper context, because I do think our expectations get out of whack. So we're all like, I want Tom Cruise Iron Man and Venom and all the characters cameoing in this movie. And then, but if I think back to like the very first Iron Man movie and how excited I was just to see a character on screen, and then I think about this movie now, I'd have been thrilled with it. If you'd have told me this movie was coming back when I watched Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, the First Avenger, I'd have been thrilled. And so you got to try and keep it in the proper context. We're trying to very hard. And I'm like, it was great. It was fun. It was a fun scene with the Illuminati. But there's this little part of my heart and brain that's like, I really wanted some other characters in there. Like, I don't even get a Willie Loman, the Fantastic Four's janitor, something. Come on. Yeah. Justin, do you have a favorite scene or scenes?
Yeah, I had a couple of action scenes I really enjoyed. The opening scene I loved. It had you grasping immediately to try and figure out what was going on, and like, you know, just being chased by a demon immediately. And I mean, it was wild. Like, that scene had you grasping for answers really quick. And
we get Ponytail Strange right off the bat,
which I thought he looked pretty tough. But
and by the end of that, what becomes a major running theme of the movie, where Strange, you know, he gets impaled in the leg by something, and it's clear he's not gonna be able to win. And so he's like turns to America Chavez, who we don't even know her name yet. And he's like, I'm sorry, this is the only way. And he's like about to kill her. We get thrust into this moment of like, yeah, that's a great scene to really hit him with out of the gate of like, oh man, they're in dire straits, and it's bad enough where he's like, hey, I'm gonna have to kill you. Strange, who's a hero, an Avenger in our universe. Yeah,
all of a sudden, that's the only thing he can possibly do to get out of it. I also really like the attack on Kamar-Taj. Just getting to see the kind of weaponry that like Scarlet Witch was using, but also how like all of the students fought back with the arrows and the shields and all those things and the drummers, of course. But I thought that was an incredible scene.
I will say, after I saw this movie, I really wanted to go back and watch. It made me feel like watching Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness was like the third Dead in the Evil Dead series of movies by Sam Raimi. And there is so much in this movie that made me feel the way I was when I watched Army of Darkness for the first time. The scene at the attack on Kamar-Taj, where she realizes she's not going to be able to beat the shields, and she starts whispering. She's looking for a weak mind, and she like kind of appears behind and to the right of one of those guys and says and whispers, "Run." That, I mean, there's so much visually here that is just so Sam Raimi. It was delightful. Like, that was delightful. And that scene has a lot of it. Of course, the body horror is kind of a staple of Raimi, and the attack on Kamar-Taj has a lot of that. It's good stuff.
The Bruce Campbell is also a staple of Mr. Raimi.
Bruce Campbell cameo, although we have scenes of Bruce Campbell hitting himself thanks to a spell by Doctor Strange, and we never get the Three Stooges putting up the hand to stop the two fingers to the eye, which we do in like the Army of Darkness, which is what I was waiting for. I was waiting for him to put up his hand and block his own fingers from going.
Favorite comedic scene? Pizza Papa.
Pizza Papa. Yeah, Bruce Campbell, of course, in all those Evil Dead movies, who's wonderful as Ash. And him and Sam Raimi are close friends. It's a great scene. You got any other favorite scenes in the movie?
Yeah, I'll take a turn. I liked the scene where America Chavez opens the portal first time intentionally and basically just shows Wanda why she is so freaking wrong.
Yeah.
And she's like, look at how your sons would see you right now. And it just, like, in my mind, it snaps Wanda back into a reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Strange is laying there on the floor in the carcass that he has inhabited, which is that whole scene is kind of fun. The last battle scene is fun because Strange uses the Darkhold in another reality that they're stuck in to dreamwalk, essentially, which is a thing that apparently the Darkhold can let you do it through one of your alternate selves. And but Christine Palmer of that reality asks him, how are you going to dreamwalk when there's not a Strange in that reality, an alive Strange? And he's like, who said it was anything about being alive? And then you realize that the ponytailed Strange, who died at the very beginning, was buried. They had this whole scene at the beginning of the movie where he buries him in like the top of this building. And so he becomes basically zombie Strange, where he's inhabiting.
What did you say? I buried worse.
Yeah, where he's inhabiting this dead body. And the best part about that scene where he's like laying on the floor and the body has been kind of destroyed beyond its usability, but Doctor Strange is still inhabiting it. And he tells America, don't, like, she's about ready to close the portal. And he says, don't, with the idea of like, she's got to see this. It has to happen. Yeah, I mean, we can get to some of that later because I'm sure we're going to talk about it when we talk about Scarlet Witch. But yeah. Basically, the conceit is she sees the monster she's become, even though everyone in the whole movie was telling her that. Something about seeing it all from her children, the fear in their eyes. That's a great scene. Yeah, you're right. The last battle scene's very well done. And again, Elizabeth Olsen is the look of recognition on her face. When you know what's good is they play that she yells at her kids. Mm-hmm. She yells, and like as a parent, boy, I identified with that immediately.
Yeah,
there's those moments as a parent where you lose your top, you get frustrated, and you boil over, and you go, "Everyone, shut up!" And your kids are looking at you, lips quivering, and in that moment, it was like, "Ooh, that was a little too on the head." I've been there. And it's too much for Elizabeth Olsen to take, or Wanda.
Yes.
And she does a great job of letting the recognition kind of flow over on her face.
Dare I say, the best Olsen we have.
Yeah.
Take that, Mary-Kate Ashley and Caitlin.
Well, it wasn't much of a battle, but yeah. Any other scenes that we would like to point out?
I like the scene of the kind of battle of the wits between Scarlet Witch and Dr. X.
Professor X?
Yeah. I liked him. I loved the rubble and the white and then the red creeping in behind him. Like it was an intense scene. Like it was really crazy.
That takes some cues from some other X-Men material in the movies where he's clearly in someone's head and he's walking. That's the clue. When we see Professor X walking around, it's usually means he's in someone's mind. And yeah, that was an amazing scene too. But like I said, way too fast for me. Yeah. Professor X doesn't put up enough of a fight, in my opinion.
I like where they are jumping through the realities, and you see all the different like realities. One of them they're like cartoon. One of them they're paint. Apparently was the one. Because it just was like, like it feels like when you're in your phone and you're on the camera and you're switching out all the filters that you can try. That's the emotion it evoked for me. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, someone's gonna freeze frame those because one had one of the first ones had the Living Tribunal. It's a character from the comics, a cosmic character, and that was awesome. And then there was a distinct one that looked a lot like what Mephisto's realm would be. I know, Mephisto, but I really think we saw Mephisto's realm.
I'm with you on that one.
Which, i.e. is hell.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So I really think we saw Mephisto's domain in one of those realities. There was like a water where they were underwater. Some of them went by too fast to notice, but there was one that looked like maybe it was the Savage Land with dinosaurs. There was some cool stuff in there. All right, let's move on to scenes that could have been better. Let's move on to some things that maybe disappointed us. I will get us started, and we've already talked a little bit about this, but America Chavez and her background as a character, which is to say not much of any at all. That we're not really, I don't think we get nearly enough to care about her. Like we don't care. We don't care about her as a character. And I want to talk about one scene in particular because they don't earn any of this. They don't earn, I never feel any real giant concern for her or feel like I'm made to care enough about her. So we're not really introduced to her at the beginning, which we hit the ground running. But then it seems like in the moment when they could have told us some things, when the action slows down, they choose to do this like in whatever reality in that like futuristic, that seemed like they ripped it out of Back to the Future too, by the way, the memory machine, where it was like, you can call it the memory machine you want, but actually it was the expository, background machine. That's like they were just using it to give us what little background we could get. So we see a strange memory where he's, with obviously in the past with Christine Palmer on a date. And then America Chavez steps on, and then we get this scene. And this is the scene, by the way, because this angers a lot of people who are more conservative. Okay, so we see a scene where she labels it as home. And then we see her two moms. She has two moms. She's wearing a rainbow flag lapel through the entire film. That's never explained, never nothing. And here's my problem with this. And we've talked about this before on the show, Cody. My problem isn't like, I don't have a problem with having LGBT people in my stories. Okay? I want my stories to look like the world. So we've talked about that before here on the pod. My problem is when you throw it out there but you're insincere. It's not genuine. So they did not put this in the movie to tell us about her character because we don't learn anything about her or about her moms. In fact, we don't really get an idea of how much they love each other. Like there's nothing really shared in these moments between the moms and the daughters that make us feel this sense of loss she has, right? And my problem with Disney here, my problem again is not that LGBT representation is happening on the screen. My problem is you felt the need to do that out of some other alternate reason, which in this case, I think wasn't a genuine reason to tell us about who these characters are. So the comic book version of America Chavez, all of these things are true. She's a part of the LGBT community and she has 2 moms. Okay. They just threw that in this movie because they knew they'd be eviscerated on Twitter if they didn't. That's it. And thus you have a scene that's largely hollow and empty. And I don't care about her or her moms because I don't see it. I don't see it play out on the screen because you just did lip service to it. And so like, if I could compare it to the Eternals, when we see Phastos and the scene he has with his husband and their children, that scene did a wonderful job of showing how much he loved his family and why that impacted his motivations. That was done well. And I responded to that emotionally while I watched it. I was like, okay, this dude loves his family and he is all decision making from henceforth is because of his love for them. So that movie took care of it great. This was a joke. And therefore it was woke. You did it for woke reasons to appease a woke mob on Twitter. And I wasn't here for it.
Very much feels just like a token gesture.
It was very token, very token. And if I'm a part of one of these groups, I don't want token representation, which is why, we've talked about this before, Cody, where we don't want them to just throw it in. It seems like they just throw it in on every TV show and movie now. And it's like, if I'm a part of one of these groups, I'm still insulted because it's not real. It's not genuine. It's not sincere.
Yeah. And if they would have done that scene any justice and made me develop any feelings about America Chavez as a character, it would not have messed up my scene, which is Doctor Strange talking about how he couldn't save his sister. And that at the end, you're supposed to come to the realization, him not killing America Chavez was him saving her to replace not being able to save his sister. I didn't care one iota because I didn't care about America Chavez as a character. And so if you would have developed that somewhat, I would have then been like, that feeling that Doctor Strange has about not being able to save his sister, he has sufficed it with this.
Yeah, I want to, Scott, we'll let you go here in a second, but I got to say this because this is going to tie into what the big question is at the end. But again, it seems like they made a conscious decision at some point because I bet that was there. Like, you don't put that in the story if there wasn't some more development of it there, like what you're talking about. Because in the movie, we get those 2 dots are far away to connect. But it's in the movie, which tells me they would have made more references to that. At some point, they made a conscious decision to say, this is going to be a 2-hour movie that's sleek and fast and just keeps the action moving. And we're going to do less character development. That's all I wanted to say because we'll get back to that question later. Scott?
Yeah, my thought about that scene was that they could have really delved into like his motivation to save lives and become a doctor in the first place was because he couldn't save his sister. Like, that just came out of nowhere. And it's like, why is every piece of Marvel content trying to be an origin story again? Like, I just feel like that's how that scene made me feel. And it removed the weight of it to his character for me. Like, had we seen that before or if we understood that before and we would have known where he was going, I don't know. I felt like it wouldn't have been so shoehorned towards the story.
And never mind that it's a massive loop plot hole. Because Doctor Strange is not a Nexus being. Every facet of his life was subject to change. He has no idea whether this Doctor Strange even had a sister.
Exactly. That's I was thinking the same exact thing. I'm like, what? Yeah.
It was a very weird detail, considering what we know about variants. But what were some of the scenes that could have been better, Kane? Do you have a scene that you thought was kind of didn't live up?
Yeah, I'm going to revisit my favorite scene because yes, it was my favorite scene, but I also think they could have done it better with the Illuminati back there again. Just needed more.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was just too short. I mean, they brought in these great characters, and then they just killed him off a couple of minutes later.
Well, yeah, I wanted more. Reed Richards appears to be the only dude up there, the only person up there that really has a heart for Strange. Maybe Professor X, but like they're so cocky, and so like we don't trust you. And really, other than the flashback scene that Professor X gifts us, basically to show us a little background filling, so we get a little bit of the story background. We don't really get an idea of like, okay, but why? Why are they so distrusting? Because we don't really see any of that. We just know that Strange uses the Darkhold, and then they're like, oh, now you have to die. Like, okay, then why is our Strange just walking around at the end of the movie with a third eye and nobody cares? Like, if that's so dangerous, yeah, it was weird. It was just weird because it needed more time to breathe, in my opinion. But again, that's what we're coming back to. A lot of these scenes were disappointing because I believe they made a conscious decision to make this a compact movie and cut out a lot.
Yep.
Did you have a disappointing scene? Scene that could have been better.
For some reason, I kind of felt like the wedding scene could have been a little better. Like he sits down at the wedding with clear purpose, and then this random guy's like, "Hey, aren't you big stuff?"
Oh, but it was the doctor things, right? From the first one.
Right. Yeah. But then he starts reaming about how he didn't get the girl. And you're just like, wow, did this guy just like follow him there and purposely sit down so he could just like ream him about stuff? I don't know. It was a weird
It was
moment.
about the cats.
Yeah.
That's what he was more concerned about.
Yeah, the cats.
Why did you have to let my 2 cats die? Oh, and my brother.
Oh, by the way, my brother died as well.
Brother, that's a side note.
Let's talk about that scene for a minute because Doctor Strange, he's not a cool dude. Let's just be really clear.
He doesn't care.
Let's be really clear. Unloading your conscience to a woman on her wedding day when she's not getting married to you, that's bad form. That was really selfish. Like, really selfish of him. And I know you're supposed to think, oh, Christine Palmer's the love of his life, blah, blah, blah. Like, to see our Doctor Strange, who, again, let's reiterate, he's not a great dude. He's not a good hero. This is the best version of him. He's a tool. That scene was cringy to me, especially when he like basically unloads his conscience to Christine Palmer on her wedding day. Like I was like, oh wow, that's selfish and disgusting. Really cringy. I hated that scene.
And I felt like that undid a lot of the work that he goes through in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like where his character was at, like you see like little hints of it in like Infinity War, where he's like, I don't really care about any of the rest of you. I'm just doing what I need to do to stop Thanos. Like there's a little bit of that, but it's not as heavy as it is throughout this entire film with his character. And I'm like, they set that up in that, again, I watched the first film again recently, so I could, go into this one thinking, okay, how did they start this character and where are they at with him now? And there was this whole character arc in that he is humbled over and over and over again, and it feels like all that work is undone just for him to be like the character that you're explaining now.
Well, I think part of that is being 5 years dust and not being Sorcerer Supreme.
There's definitely a lot of attention paid to, is Doctor Strange happy?
Yeah. And so I'm okay with the choices that were made in this movie because, again, there's 2 themes that run with Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch, or Wanda. And yes, Doctor Strange is someone you should dislike.
Oh, okay. You're going to just go there.
I'm going to go there.
He's a guy he's not very heroic, and you're not supposed to like him very much. Is that?
He's heroic, but he's selfish.
Yeah.
So, like, how we view the rich billionaires that like spend all their money to fly to space and not help out the poor, whatever, and we always blast them. He's that.
Okay.
He's selfish, and everything that, for the most part, that he does is based on, well, how does this make me look? How does this do me some good?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the evil that we're easily like, oh no, we don't want to be like him. But Wanda is different.
Well, and I think that's the weird thing about this movie, and that's the weird thing about the wedding scene, is they're doing all of this work to try and show us how flawed he is, how unhappy he is, and how he might be led to be the kind of guy who over and over again, fails America Chavez in these different realities. And fails to keep himself away from the evil elements of the Darkhold. That he will just, his hunger for power to fix the things in his life that he wants to be it the way they are, like his selfishness for what he wants to be happy, is going to lead him to these like corrupt versions of power. And I feel like instead of, going with what we already knew, here's the overriding theme for a lot of this is, I sense that Marvel Studios is going in this direction where every movie, in order to make the maximum amount of money we can make, has to stand alone. Do you know what I mean when I say that? I mean, you don't have to watch the other stuff to understand it, that the movie can be watched beginning to end and you wouldn't feel so lost. So all of a sudden, you have to do a lot of these little character building moments that you wouldn't have to do. So the reason the wedding scene feels kind of strange to us is because, we already know Doctor Strange is hopelessly in love with Christine Palmer and that he ruined himself because he's a tool. Like, we already know that. So it's just cringy to see him acting like a tool at her wedding. And then save the day, which, like, I thought the look on her face as he's doing it was perfect, by the way, where her new husband comes out and like starts smiling, goes, "Oh, cool," and she's like very annoyed.
Rachel McAdams,
she
steals the show, like with her few scenes.
All right, settle down. She's very good.
I'm sorry, I agree wholeheartedly on that. Like,
And-
I'm so on that page.
To
Really?
think about like where I first meet Rachel McAdams in Mean Girls, and here she is like upset, and like you can tell, and then like she still has feelings for him in other universes, and she does like there's so much emotion that she brings.
She's way too good for him, though.
Yeah, she is, because he's a tool.
He is the worst hero in the Avengers. Can we just say that?
I agree.
He's a tool. Like, somewhere John Walker from Falcon and the Winter Soldier is like, I'm better than that dude. Like, oh man, he's a joke. Do we have any scenes that we think could have been better or that we thought were disappointing? All right, we can move on. The next category is the We Got Spirit Award. Did the movie have any biblical references, allusions, or themes? And we can discuss there. Clearly, I think the easy one is demonic activity.
Okay, yeah, that one's too obvious.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other obvious one is, and I found this a little bit on the nose personally, but they kind of address that it probably is a little bit on the nose, where he literally turns water into wine at the wedding.
There you
at
go.
the wedding. Right.
And then he goes, is that a little bit on the nose? And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yes, that is.
That is absolutely a specific biblical reference. In the movie. And he does. That was a hilarious scene that you don't get unless you're a Bible person, because he's like a little too on the nose. Yeah. But that's a wonderful. But also shows the ridiculous ego of Stephen Strange. This dude just likened himself to Jesus.
Yeah.
He did.
It's like, really, dude? Really? Are you serious?
Yeah. So there was that. Did we see any other? I didn't pick up many.
So we finally get to my moment of talking about Wanda.
Oh, okay.
So
we're having. Is there a biblical reference?
Her evilness is a sin that most of us would say, "Oh, that's not a bad one." It is the love and idea of family and elevating it too high. She puts all of her emphasis on that. Where Jesus says, if you love your mother and father more than you love me, we have an issue. And like having the proper perspective on each facet of your life is important, especially in terms of mental health. But when you obsess over something, and it's a good thing to obsess over, no one's like, oh, well, loving your family is a bad thing. No one's like that. But the level to which she goes, even though the family wasn't real, but for that time in WandaVision, it was, that she obsesses over it, and she feels that sense of completion. When she's with her family, that is kind of like her shalom, that there's nothing missing, nothing broken, everything is complete and perfect as it should be. And like, I would say most of us don't realize the evil we do out of what is viewed as quote unquote good acts. Because she reveals, well, the reason I want America's powers is so that if the boys get sick, I can take them to another dimension where they have the cure. I can keep the boys safe, because in an infinite amount of universes, there's an infinite amount of possibilities for whatever circumstance may come up. And it's all about her family. She is obsessed about that. And yet it is this good thing that leads her down this path of darkness and destruction, where she's oblivious to the fact that she just wiped out all of Doctor Strange's buddies.
And no punches are pulled there. They show burnt, charred bodies.
Like it was straight out of Pompeii.
Yeah, it's bad.
And
That was amazing.
yes,
I mean, they make it really clear she went murdery.
And yet it doesn't like register, because this is what the end goal is to have a safe, happy family where we can all be at peace and everything's perfect. And so this is why I love the portrayal that Wanda does get in this, because not only do you get her to become the full Scarlet Witch, but you do it through what most people would say, caring about your family is not a bad thing. She goes down that rabbit hole. And that's why, as Christian pastors, you got to have God first, and then the pecking order falls in place because you have the right perspective. But when you don't have the right perspective, you get warped and you get more warped, and then finally, boom, you're killing all of everything to save your boys that aren't real.
Okay, so I am going to say well said, and I'm coming closer to the idea that the Scarlet Witch's character is not a total travesty in this movie, but I still think there's a better version of this movie that's a half hour longer, where we get more of a gradual progression, or at least in the sense where she's pretending to help them at first.
Dave, you sound quite like a DC fan right now.
No. Why? How so?
Release the Snyder cut. Release the X cut.
Well,
release the longer cut.
Look,
there's another cut out there.
These Marvel,
it needs more.
These Marvel movies had been averaging 2.5 hours in length, and all I'm saying is like, I think, okay, so because it happened so early without any real progression, the flip in the garden in her orchard, it's not really earned. It's not as big of a shock as it should be. Like there's a scenario where that could have been a majorly shocking moment, because they did a pretty good job in the commercials of not letting on that she was the absolute main villain. I think a lot of people up until they saw this movie thought there could have been someone big bad behind all of this. It's not unheard of in the comics for her to be being manipulated by Mephisto or some other entity.
Yeah, I thought that it was Wanda and Doctor Strange working together to fight some unknown big bad dude.
And so I just think there's a version of this movie where they could have done more justice to what you're talking about, Cody, in that I do think Elizabeth Olsen's performance is great. And I do think there's some cool turns, like that scene in the orchard. I just think it could have had so much more impact if we got just 15 to 20 minutes of her kind of sort of helping them.
Yeah.
Not being too interested in helping them, but helping them, and then them gradually, like the gradual, instead of like the really fakish, oh, I said her name even though you didn't say it. Like that's a trope, dude. That's a trope. That happens so much in movies. Where like, I never said her name. Now you die. You know, like that was such a trope. I just think there was a better way that could have happened, and it would have taken 15 to 30 more minutes of movie time to gradually lead up to that.
There's a couple moments where I thought, is this movie making fun of itself? Like, is this movie making fun of other comic book movies? Is it being like a caricature of itself? It was so, like, I was like, really? Like, that's the direction that they went? Like, you're talking about this cliche that happens in film, and I'm like, they did that kind of a lot in this movie where you're like, oh, okay. I mean, if that's how you want to take it,
yeah,
we're here for the ride, I guess.
It wasn't a perfect movie. And I think we're going to find out as time goes on that there was just a lot more of this filmed, and they made a decision. And I've said this so many times.
There's a Raimi cut out there.
There's a Sam Raimi cut. Yeah. Did we catch any other allusions to the Bible? Any other references, or was that the only one? The water into wine. I think that was it.
I mean, like, pride comes before the fall, that every time Doctor Strange has the opportunity to save people in other universes, that Doctor Strange fails.
Yeah. Strange is a tool. He's a tool. All right, let's move on to the greatest story ever told award. This, of course, is, did any characters follow a Jesus-like story path or possess Jesus-like attributes? The one that jumps out, and I think, okay, so there's not only did I wish they would have changed the Scarlet Witch's story progression. Let's talk about America Chavez for a minute and the end of the film, because I think the end of the film could have been a lot more powerful. The scene at the end where America is on the pedestal thing, the platform, and Doctor Strange comes up to her in his dead body that he's inhabiting. And America turns to him and says, "It's okay. I'm ready. It has to be this way." And she's sacrificing herself. And this is like, she gets like this Jesus moment of like being the hero. She gets to be the hero that Doctor Strange isn't. And I thought, oh, are they doing this? This is going to be an amazing ending, because what better ending to a character we didn't really care about because you didn't flesh her out, but you give her the big heroic moment at the end of sacrifice, make Doctor Strange take her power, and then live with it. Like, how much more of a character building moment as in future stuff would this have been for Doctor Strange to have to kill her when he didn't want to? When all the other Stranges did, they were fine with it. This Strange says, no, I don't want to do that. But America Chavez is, do it. I realize this has to be the way it is.
That would have been epic.
I think that would have been a great ending, and I think it was a missed opportunity, and they took away her sacrificial moment.
It's the Star Wars sequels all over again. I feel like there was a moment in the second film where Finn was flying his little speeder, and he was about to sacrifice himself for all of the resistance, and then this just ruins that moment.
She takes him out. Rose takes him out in a high-speed collision.
Where'd she come from?
Where they should have been like dead. Are you kidding me? They're moving at high speeds. And then they have like a romantic kind of conversation.
It was just
in the middle of this battle. That's spot on. That is spot on.
This is the MCU's moment for that, because you're so right. You're so right. It would have been so much more emotionally drawing me in if she had truly made a sacrifice. They're just not willing, I feel like, to let any characters have that anymore. Like, because people just start online hoo-has about they didn't give this character enough time. You're going to introduce this let's take her character for example. You're gonna introduce this character and take her away in one film, and she didn't even get to have all these moments and all that stuff.
Her character's wasted anyways. I mean, we've already talked about it ad nauseum, but she's not really developed. She's a cardboard character, and then that part at the end where she says it's okay, I know it has to be done. I'm leaning forward in my chair. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to give her the heroic moment. And then they snatch it away to give it back to Doctor Strange, I guess, in that he convinces her, you can do it. Like, that's all unclear. Well, why? Up to that point, she hadn't been able to. What happened? Because Doctor Strange gave her one last pep talk? That was weird for me, bro. The ending, that was just weird.
And she doesn't even, like, overcome the Scarlet Witch in, like, battle prowess or anything. She just so happens to, like, open the right portal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way that Doctor Strange encourages her, he literally says, you know, I'm not going to say it, but he said, so you can, I can't say it.
To beat her. To beat her. But what he does is,
like it seems like, you're going to have a physical altercation.
She doesn't really do that at all.
But she doesn't. Yeah, she takes a whole different route because she's losing the battle.
Yeah, it was weird. Weird ending for me.
That was a Martha moment.
A Martha moment.
Superman, Batman.
Oh,
Batman versus Superman. Martha.
You see,
which, if you haven't heard, there's a longer cut of that movie that makes more sense.
My grade for
you watch it.
Listen, my grade for the movie's going down as we sit here and talk about it. Okay, yeah.
But they're obviously setting up America to be part of the Young Avengers. They're setting up all of these young characters.
Is that ever going to happen, though?
To take over the MCU.
Yeah.
So now that they're killing off all of the main original characters, or sending them off into oblivion.
How does she even fit into an Earth level Young Avengers team, anyways? Yeah. That power is so out there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just felt like, man, the opportunity they had here to have her really go out with the heroic ending and to really put Strange through the ringer where he might actually, affect real change in his character.
Yeah.
Because what does Strange learn by the end of this? Nothing. He's still going to be a giant tool.
Shockingly, yes.
He's just walking around with a third eye at the end, like, I messed with the Darkhold. Oh, by the way, in the first movie, I said I had a photographic memory, and I looked at the Darkhold. So, by the way, destroying the Darkhold doesn't mean I'm not messing with the Darkhold. Have a great night, everybody. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
He's like, oh, I caused this event in your universe, Charlize. Let me fix it.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not afraid. I'm just as idiotic as I was before this movie started.
Hey, I
have learned nothing.
It's all worked out pretty well so far.
Yeah.
So he kind of does a Jesus-y thing with like, oh, I'm going to bring back this body from the dead.
Good call. Good call.
I actually have another scene that I think would work. One of my favorite scenes was when he's needing the book, and Professor X is like, they're like, do we really trust this guy? And he's like, I think we do. And he's like, because you make a mistake doesn't mean you give up on somebody.
Yeah. Well, but there's some, again, it's weird that this movie is so self-contained, but then with some of the characters, they're like, oh no, you need to know from other movies who this is, because they give no explanation of why Professor X does a 180 triple Indy there to backtrack and be like, oh, we're going to have to trust him. It's because Professor X has probably seen the scenario in his head and it's like, oh, this is not going well. We're about to die. And so what's not said is that Professor X is able to flesh all that out in his telepathically and understand his comrades are dying. And and that's the reason for the switch. Baron Mordo, they make Baron Mordo look like an idiot in this movie, in that scenario. But yeah, okay.
You mean Carl.
Carl Mordo. That is his real comic book name. Okay. The winner of the movie, that is Who put in the best performance in the movie? It doesn't have to be an actor. It could be anybody. Who wins this movie? Who gets the most out of it?
Elizabeth Olsen does. With what she has, she gets the absolute most out of it, closely followed by Rachel McAdams.
Elizabeth Olsen was fantastic. I cannot argue with that.
I have to go back to the John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. Just the short amount of time that he does have, he convinces you that he's better than a Mr. Fantastic who had 2 movies to be Mr. Fantastic and another Mr. Fantastic who had a whole movie to be Mr. Fantastic. You're just like, this is the definitive version of this character, and I'm not even going to remember those other guys.
I'm going to give this an incomplete. But we may have to revisit this and say that John Krasinski absolutely is the winner of this movie if when that Fantastic Four movie that the MCU is developing comes out is starring John Krasinski, directed by John Krasinski, then we'll be like, yeah, this dude nailed down that role with his 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could go for it. Who wins the movie? Who's the winner of the movie, Kane?
I think I have to agree with my compatriots here who've come before me. Yeah, the two main females did great. John Krasinski just knocks it out of the park. Mm-hmm. Cannot wait for a movie, if it actually happens, to come out with him starring in it.
Is John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic the most successful cameo of all time?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I'd put a vote towards that.
I mean, what you said, Scott, is absolutely right. You've got 3 other Mr. Fantastics out there that had ample time, a whole movie or 2 in one case, to be Mr. Fantastic, and John Krasinski nails it in about 2 minutes. Just nails it. Like he is Reed Richards.
Yeah,
Incredible.
He just has a presence, right?
Yeah.
It's a presence that you have or you haven't.
Yeah.
And he has it.
Justin, winner of the movie.
Definitely going Elizabeth Olsen. I think her acting was incredible. I think Rachel McAdams really steals it at the end. Honorable mention to Benedict Wong. That guy is in multiple movies, and through the entire thing, his body takes big beatings, like through that whole thing, and his acting and his fortitude are just nuts. Like nothing stops him.
He's amazing in it, and like. Doctors are probably like, oh, these people all have CTE. Like, because everyone hits their head. Like, Doctor Strange does it. Wong does it like 2 or 3 times. Like, concussions are abounding the MCU.
Tell me the difference between Benedict Wong cracking his neck there in that one scene and John Walker's friend dying in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Pretty much the same velocity. Like, man, like, how did he not die there?
It pays off to be a Sorcerer Supreme.
I'm with you guys, and I don't want to take anything away from Elizabeth Olsen because, as I said, I think the role she's asked to play is pretty thin as written. And I think she does a lot of amazing, subtle things. But her character, we're unsure where her character is going to be at the end of this. Like, she appears to die. I think they'll bring her back for other things. So I'm going to go with the winner of this movie is Sam Raimi, the director. He absolutely gets to showcase like a lot of what he is as a director. I brought up Army of Darkness because I just love that movie. I loved that when I was younger, when I was a kid, and I just loved the style it was in. And I love that. Let's just talk about Kevin Feige for a minute. I love that he gets these directors who have their own style and own kind of way they do things, and he allows them to be them. Like, we get to see a Doctor Strange movie that is camp horror in the style of Sam Raimi. And if you'd have told me that when I was like a teenager, I'd have went ballistic crazy. I'd been like, what? We're going to get a Sam Raimi horror camp Doctor Strange movie? Get out of here. And it is Sam Raimi absolutely wins the movie for me. I think he was amazing. I think everyone gets he gets the largest like mainstream vehicle he's ever had to show off some of the things about him that he loves. I mean, and this is a guy that did the first Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. And so, but this is bigger. This is way bigger, and I love it. I loved everything about it, even from the very beginning where they pluck out Gargantos' eye. That was just so Sam Raimi, and it even had the. I mean, it had the sound. It was like, oh, my kids went, oh. Oh, it was just wonderful, just wonderful. Sam Raimi was amazing. Who gets the Go Get 'Em Next Time award? It's a disappointing performance, maybe. Who the Go Get 'Em Next Time champ? Kane looks like he wants to go first.
Yeah, there was one scene. It was near the end where the kids, the two boys, were kind of like clawing at their mom, going, "No, don't go, don't go." I was just like,
"You're gonna put the boys on blast." Yeah. Oh yep. Man, we're going after child actors.
Yeah, I'm done. No, yeah, I was just like, that's. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me.
All right.
They probably just took the best take they could get, and they're like, "Yeah, we got some other stuff to focus on."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Who else got another one? Go Get 'Em Next Time award, or subtitled the Bless Their Heart award. Bless their heart.
I think the doctor at the wedding. Like, I really didn't care for him.
It was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. Although the cat line made me laugh out loud, like, the rest of it was like, this is just feels off.
They keep throwing to a lot of their shows and movies, like, effects of the blip. And it's weird because it feels out of place with the rest of the movie. Then, like, oh, by the way, here's someone who suffered mightily because of the blip. Like, got blipped, came back, cats were dead. Brother gone. Clearly, is he a doctor anymore? Even he looks pretty rough.
Yeah, you can't forget about that. I think my Go Get 'Em Next Time award, and it's just because, like you said, her character was written so flat, was America Chavez. Because
Xochitl Gomez is the actress who played her.
You could write that character with a different name and just keep the power, and it wouldn't change the movie not one bit.
Right, and then you could have sacrificed her, let her sacrifice at the end stand,
and made
and really had this kind of like
standout performance,
counterintuitive. Yeah. Instead of it being like your standard end to a superhero movie. Yeah.
Because like Kane mentioned, like, oh, well, maybe they're trying to do a Young Avengers, but when does that come about? Does she sit on the table for 10 years and then she's 10 years older to play this role you won't even recognize anymore?
But again, you run into the woke thing, because if they take that character out of this movie, then they get blasted. They're on blast. Like, there's really a trap in all this with the social media presence of like this element of these people that are just constantly looking to protect like whatever minority group they're looking to protect. So even the representation folks of like, or when someone of a certain nationality is playing out of their nationality, or someone who's not disabled playing a disabled person now, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just these like protectors of these groups of people now, where like these movie companies have to be obsessed with thinking about all these other things that don't really have anything to do with making a good movie. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the character of America Chavez suffers in the long run because you have to think about all this nonsense. Yeah. Who hasn't gone yet? Justin? Go Get 'Em Next Time award, or Bless Their Hearts. Bless Their Hearts award.
I'm going to have to go with Baron Mordo.
Baron Mordo.
I didn't.
Great actor. Chiwetel Okafor.
Great actor. I didn't care for his character in this movie. Like, basically what happens is he's just like, I don't like you. And then Doctor Strange makes him look silly, and he's just like, no wonder I don't like you. Like, it's just like this weird altercation.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a better actor who plays a character that we care less about than this guy? Because he gets the end credit scene of the first Doctor Strange. He's supposed to be like he is the main opposition for Doctor Strange on Earth. Baron Mordo is his arch enemy. And even after the end of the first movie, I'm like, I don't really care. And this is like an amazing actor. This is an Oscar-winning. This guy's that kind of caliber of an actor. And yeah, you're right, because what we get of him here, even though he's an alternate version, I'm like, he doesn't seem all that menacing. or a match for Doctor Strange, to be honest.
Well, his like our version of that character from the 616 universe is talked about and is developed in the way that you know that he came after Doctor Strange and tried to kill him, but it's just, again, it's all off screen and there's none of that development that we even get to see. Like Doctor Strange just mentions in passing to this new version of the character from 818 or whatever the number of the universe was. It's like, oh, well, you tried to kill me in the other universe. And he's like, this is strange. Like, this is weird. You're my brother. You're going to give me a hug. But we didn't see any of that from this other mortal. We just saw him take out the dude who used his power to walk again and say there's too many sorcerers.
Yeah.
Like, he was set up to be this movie's villain, and they had that script and they just threw it away in favor of the Wanda story.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about him as a character, and that's probably some mishandling on Marvel's part. My go get him next time award. I think the big loser of this movie is Disney Plus. I think Disney Plus is the big loser of this movie, and I'll explain why. I think the people that are going to be very disappointed in this movie are the people that expect some sort of connectivity. As someone who grew up reading comic books, you could do individual stories and still have it connected to the Marvel universe at large, which they did a fantastic job of in the first 20 movies with the Infinity Saga. I mean, from the first couple of movies, they're dropping in little seeds of the Infinity, where this is going. Those movies were all pretty well connected as far as the narrative of where all of it was going. And it doesn't have to be like, man, they don't have to be big connections. But I think in phase 4 in particular, I mean, we just got done watching Moon Knight, and that is largely disconnected. Everything we've seen, let's just put it on the table. You don't need to see Spider-Man No Way Home to understand this movie. The implication was that the Spider-Man No Way Home was going to lead directly into the events of this movie. That's not the case. You do not need to know the events of Spider-Man No Way Home in any way to enjoy and understand this movie. And they seem to be making this conscious decision to be like, our stories, and I said it earlier, our stories are going to be standalone stories so we can make the most money, so people will feel like they don't have to have seen these other things to go see these movies. However, I think that hurts you in the long run, because the people like me who enjoy the connectivity of it, that this is all taking place in the same world, like, I'm kind of upset that we're not getting the effects of Loki, the end of the series of Loki, in Spider-Man No Way Home, in this movie. Like, that was the understanding. It's like, oh, well, Multiverse of Madness, that's going to come straight out of the events of Loki, right? And then it was like, Spider-Man No Way Home's got to lead directly into the events of Multiverse of Madness, but it doesn't. Not in any way. You do not need to have seen that movie to understand this movie. And that hurts Disney Plus, because all of a sudden I like those shows, but I'm a lot less interested if I know and understand up front they're going to have very little connectivity to the movies. I'm interested because they're part of the greater world at large, but I understand that you're telling character stories in those Disney Plus shows because you have television and they get longer time to expand and do character development, but I'm a lot less interested in those characters if I understand they're not going to be very connected to the movies. A lot less interested. So I think this hurts Disney Plus and the shows they put on there in the long run, and it leads us to our bottom line question of the pod and of this movie review. Do we want more standalone movies like this one ended up being, or do we want connection? Do we want a connected universe? Because I kind of want a connected universe, and I've got a problem that all of these events seem to be related, but they're not. They don't draw them together in any way. And I understand that will probably lead to some big event movie like Secret Wars where they will finally connect, but I'm not interested to go through 20 movies where they're not dropping breadcrumbs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard to get another Endgame without the lead up that Endgame had. And
I'm only interested in Endgame because Guardians of the Galaxy happens. Right. We get Ronan dealing with Thanos.
Right. Or, just the little bitty individual parts of the Infinity Stones showing up here or there in random areas. Like the Reality Stone first showed up in Thor: The Dark World. The Tesseract first shows up in Captain America, and they're connected to these other characters, and then their stories are all brought together by this cosmic level event. But now and multiverse, you would have thought the multiverse was going to be the next large connector, but now it seems like they're trying to tell a different kind of multiverse story with every project that they had. Spider-Man had the multiverse going on so that you could meet the other Spider-Man. Loki had the multiverse going on so they could introduce King the Conqueror. This movie had multiverse going on so that they could have Zombie Strange. Like, I don't know. Like, it just feels weird. There's no one direction they're going with the multiverse, which I understand the multiverse kind of lends itself to, in the fact that it's the concept that anything and everything can and is happening in every different universe. But they're all trying to connect back to the MCU universe, and they're not. That's what's confusing to me.
When after Endgame and the high of Endgame, and to be like, man, that was amazing, I wondered if I would be able to get as interested in another story, because the Infinity Gauntlet story was always one of my favorites. But then at the end of Loki, where they took such like this amazing chance, really, and they made the last episode of Loki so out there and bonkers, where I was like, oh, I'm in, because it seemed to set up everything about where they were going. And then you have things coming where you're like, it seems like it's validating that, like, you're getting a multiverse of madness. Rumors start coming out about Spider-Man and how the multiverse is going to play around in that. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is going to be the next story. This is how it's all connected. And to not get the payoff on that, like, and then to be like, oh, by the way, our next show after this is Miss Marvel. We'll see you in June. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I'm not real interested in Miss Marvel now, because you just did Moon Knight and Hawkeye, and they had very little connectivity to the Marvel universe at large. And I don't know if I'm interested in Miss Marvel or She-Hulk if they're not connected in a bigger way.
I think maybe Marvel has realized DC's problem. That universe is great if you have a story that is easy to write, but DC has tried to make a universe and it's trash. But they do standalone movies fairly well, especially with Batman. Maybe this phase or next couple of phases, we're just going to stand alone, and there might be Easter eggs that are being dropped, and we're just not picking up on them yet because the storyline is that far out that we're going to have to wait till phase 6 to realize this.
Okay, let me break it down comics for you. There's lots of Easter eggs dropped in this movie, but towards a different story. Okay, yeah. So at the end of Loki, we looked like we were going to have this Kang multiversal war story that dealt with Kang as the big bad. But now in this movie, they're dropping all of the language they use with the incursions. That is all direct references to an event in Marvel Comics called Secret Wars, which is a multiversal thing. And it's a war of some sorts, but it's kind of trippy and like, it's fine. But now I'm like, oh, are we going this way now? Are we not getting Kang? Because I was really excited about Kang.
I thought Captain Marvel set up Secret Wars, that route, the end post credits.
What was it? Remind me of the post credit scene.
It's Captain Marvel. Now I'm questioning myself.
What was the scene?
Nick Fury's not Nick Fury.
Oh, you mean at the end of Spider-Man?
Spider-Man,
Far From Home.
Yeah.
Where with the scrolls. That actually sets up more of a secret invasion thing.
Okay.
Like, which is a show coming. But that show, like, look, Secret Invasion is supposed to come out at the end of this year, I think, or the beginning of next year. That appears to really have no bearing on where they're going with the movies.
Secret stuff is happening left and right, Dave.
Secret Invasion is not Secret Wars, but it's okay.
Yeah, secret stuff. That's what I'm going to call this phase. It's all secret stuff.
But I guess that's my problem, is I want the connectedness, and I think Marvel's got a problem. I think at the end of this movie, what we're left with is Marvel has maybe their first roadblock since they started this whole thing. That they have a problem here where they need to make a decision. Are you going to have these forms of entertainment, the television shows on Disney Plus, and the movies that are going to be largely standalone and not necessarily super connected? Like, I get that there's Easter eggs that may, like you see a poster in the background. Someone's got a Thanos was right mug, like, oh, look at the connection, Bob. They're gonna have to make a decision whether that's what they want to do, or they want to. Because look, let's just put Feige on blast for a second. Feige gets recognized as this genius mastermind who put together the Infinity Saga. But does that go away if this all just kind of gets, flubbed up here?
I'm not 100% sure if it goes away, but it is kind of like the star quarterback in high school, and then he gets to college and he's not all that.
Maybe, but that's why I love the Infinity Saga movies, the first 22 movies or whatever. It's because they work as standalone movies while still being connected.
Well, it seems all the interconnective tissue in the newer stuff is looking backwards and not forwards. You see, like the doctor complaining about the blip, or all that is all the connective tissue in these films is now looking backwards instead of forwards.
Yeah.
Or that Marvel sees the writing on the walls and knows that the superhero movie bubble has burst.
No, come on.
We can keep making superhero movies, but if we're going to get the most out of it financially, we're going to have to just do these solo standalone films.
I mean, Doctor Strange is going to make like $800 million. I mean, that doesn't say that it's bursting to me.
The previous handful were like $1 billion.
Well, okay, COVID happened though. That's not fair.
I'm just saying the same people that were alive during the past few are still here and still all about the comic books.
You can't make that claim.
I will.
No, that's not it. That's not correct. People died.
Some, yes, but that many? No.
Cody's canceled. That's insensitive remarks from no.
It is, but
Cody,
I'm just saying the Marvel fandom is still sky high.
Okay. What do you want though? Do you want standalone movies or do you want more connectedness? Were you okay with this movie?
I was great with this movie, although I am great with there being a huger connectivity on down the road. I don't need to know it as it's happening.
Okay. Huger's not a word, but all right. Well,
more huge. Hugely.
It's huge. It's huge.
No, I think the connectivity is what drew us all into the Marvel universe in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's what will keep us coming back. And I think I'm going to side with Dave a little bit on like the Disney Plus being the loser here, because it feels a tad Star Warsy as we hinted at. It's like, hey, like here's a clear path, we're leading you, and that's not what we did. And you're just like, there was multiverse popping up in multiple movies, and yet that's not what we got.
Yeah, I feel like Moon Knight's a great example of where we're at, because I thought Moon Knight was one of the best Disney Plus series as far as content. But I'm a little disappointed because it doesn't appear that we may even necessarily get any more Moon Knight. And I don't know that I care. Because you didn't connect him at all. Like, at least at the end of Eternals, Dane Whitman has a little blade in his life. We got a little bit of there's usually, even in the end credits, where there's just a little bit of connection to keep us going and be like, cool, they're going to hook up, And then, I don't know. I just feel weird about this movie.
I'm in the connected camp. They've got to be connected if they want to draw more people in and get people involved. You've got to get people involved in a bigger story, and they're probably not going to be able to completely replicate what they did with the Infinity Saga. I would really hope that they try.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
just something.
I want them to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have hoped they would have thrown, like there was even I mean, Doctor Strange is one of the most example of the thing that I'm thinking of different characters from other standalone films showing up in other movies. Like he was in Spider-Man No Way Home, he's in Ragnarok, he's in a lot of these other other characters stories, and yet there was no unless you want to count the New Girl, there was no characters that were not in the Doctor Strange sphere that showed up and made a point or had a part that made it feel like, oh, well, this is still happening in this universe at large.
Yeah. If you'd have told me at the end of Loki that dealt largely with the multiverse at the end, that we were going to get a Spider-Man movie that had multiple Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and then we were going to get a Doctor Strange movie literally called The Multiverse of Madness, and that we weren't going to get anything elaborated on what happened at the end of Loki in either of those movies, I'd have said, you're nuts. You're crazy. Those movies are clearly going to be about what's happening. But they weren't.
The title of that movie literally implies.
Yeah.
But no.
Let's lead this into our final grade. Out of 10, how many are we going to give it out of 10? I'll go first. The movie itself, this is what's weird. It's a good movie. It's compact. The story, as a standalone movie, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. As an enjoyer of the Marvel universe, as like the connectivity of it all and the ongoing story, I'd give it more of a 5. My satisfaction level is somewhere around a 5. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, I'm left with this kind of disappointed feeling of, I wanted more. I wanted more, and not the silly cameos. I wanted more connective tissue in between the things that we're seeing.
Okay, so we actually have the same grade. I go 8 out of 10, but I'm actually excited about it because they launched and begin to develop the Scarlet Witch character. I think that you still see Scarlet Witch after this.
She's dead, though.
She's not.
According to the movie, she's
not. She's still good.
It's like you can't develop her character if she's dead.
She's still here.
Okay. I will say,
I think Elizabeth Olsen just signed a huge contract with Marvel.
Yeah, I will say, to back you up, there's alternate versions of her with alternate versions of her kids, and those kids aren't real. So the fact that she might flip out in another reality is highly likely. So she's still out there.
Yeah, I'm going to say that because they said that Doctor Strange is the character that this next phase hinges on. And so maybe the events of him looking at the book sets up everything.
And that's what they said, which makes me disappointed. Like, yeah, I know. That's what they said. That his story is kind of the story we're hinging on.
And so, yeah, if we get more Doctor Strange and Wanda, I'm here for it. Because literally, that's why I've been excited about this movie for like the past year and a half. So,
yeah. Scott, what are you giving it?
I want to say I'll give it like a 6.
6 out of 10.
And the thing is, if we're gonna get more of these characters, then why are we giving like Wanda like Loki, like old style Loki moments? Yeah, she dies in this film, but she'll be back.
Yeah.
It's just like they've done that so many times in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You almost can't trust a character death. And if they're just going to use the multiverse as a way to continue to bring back characters that have died, I don't know if I'm 100% here for the multiverse. It's just, I don't know how I feel about that because I want characters' deaths to have weight.
I hadn't thought about that, but the fact that they've already kind of done that with Loki is a problem.
Every film he was in, every one.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that version of her is still alive because
how
did the books get destroyed in all the other areas? That was Wanda. She had to destroy them, and she destroyed it after the temple fell on her. After the big red whoosh. Yeah, she's still alive. She's not dead.
This was my rating, Cody. I was speaking. I think that is just part of the spell that she uses that destroys the temple.
Yeah, she'll be back.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm frustrated about that, and that's why the end of that movie, that scene has no weight to me, and there's a lot of scenes that don't have weight to me, and that's why it only gets a 6.
I hear you. I still think she's going to be the key to bringing in mutants into the MCU. Kane, what's your grade?
Well, I'm going to give this movie a solid 6.5.
6.5. Okay. 6.5. That seems very C plus-ish.
Yeah, but I'm like you. It was okay. Yeah, I enjoyed watching it. A few things that could have been better. It was great. I wish it was more connected. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Justin, you're the last one. Bring it home.
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
If I were to describe Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, I would call it a 100-yard dash. It is a sprint. You are trucking the whole way through. I feel like some performances are amazing. Some are very lackluster. Not a lot of connectivity, but I had a good time. I laughed a lot, and it was a new Marvel Universe movie. 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, it was entertaining. I don't feel bad about getting him an 8 out of 10 as just a standalone movie. Like, it's great. And Sam Raimi, I'm serious about him being the winner of the movie. It's a wonderfully paced and put together movie. If I'm just talking about technical achievement of movie making, it's wonderful. But yeah, it's because Marvel is Marvel that I'm disappointed in some ways. It's a weird place to be.
Maybe this one gets an incomplete from some of you.
Yeah, this one will be divisive, though, and it's proving to be already. We're recording this on Sunday evening, and you're already starting to hear some pretty widely divided opinions on this movie.
Kind of like the Batman. You either really liked it or you didn't.
Yeah, it's that's where we're at. All right, Geeks of the Round Table, I commend you. Thank you for coming to one of our movie reviews. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition of the Pop Culture Pastor podcast. Do us a favor, subscribe to the pod, give us a good rating and a review. That always helps the thing. And then follow us on Facebook or Twitter. That way you'll get all the information you need. If, Lord willing, we make it to the next pod and we don't kill each other arguing about this Doctor Strange movie, we'll be back with another pod next week. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you then.